Welcome to Trauma-Informed Teaching. We are living, teaching, and learning in unprecedented times, and this presentation is meant to shed light on the struggle learners are facing and strategies that can be employed to ameliorate them. Learning involves openness, trust, agency, and a belief that the information is important. When an individual experiences trauma, their brain, more specifically the amygdala in their brain, takes over the messaging and shorts out executive functioning. What happens as a result is that individuals move into what is commonly known as fight, flight, or freeze mode. Immediacy of the perceived threat in that moment and fear of the future takes precedence over anything else. Learners can no longer see the point of the material presented, and they feel isolated with no power to change the present circumstance. They have no agency to do anything because they're focused on the threat at hand. Once those things are in play, one is not able to see the long-term purpose in learning the material. Trauma-informed teaching is a way to address these struggles. These strategies are derived from evidence-based trauma-informed care practices, which have been employed with success on micro, meso, and macro levels. First, and perhaps most importantly, students must be provided with an emotional, cognitive, physical, and interpersonal safe space to learn. Next, material must be presented in such a way that students are personally invested in the material, and they must have peers that share that investment. Mutual aid is key. Next, it's important that teaching be student-centered. The content that is covered is important, but it's imperative that students are considered in the delivery of that content. That means that their voices are important. When the learning becomes a part of their personal narrative, it helps them to feel a sense of purpose. Not only are students, and quite frankly professors, living through a pandemic, many are having to learn in completely new ways. Our living spaces are being exposed with all its flamboyance and flaws, with kids asking for snacks and dogs barking in the background. On top of that, we have to deal with technology that is at times temperamental and learning management systems that aren't always user-friendly. It is actually incredible that more students and professors haven't fled, fought, or froze. So what can we do about it? First, we have to take care of ourselves and encourage our students to do the same. Sounds simple, but exercise, eating right, and getting enough sleep have never been more important. Next, we as professors have to maintain the boundaries that we have always had in the classroom, but be more flexible when the inevitable foible happens. That is about having compassion, not giving out high grades. There's a difference. Finally, we must recognize that not everything is as it seems. When a student is bouncing a ball against the wall on camera, while yes, it is totally inappropriate, it might not be about his or her bad behavior as much as a coping mechanism because a parent just died of COVID. We need to remember to wonder what has happened, not just judge the action. So obstacle number 2. Oftentimes, especially when professors are rushed because they're on camera and realize that attention spans will wane quickly, they push through material, worrying solely about pushing out content. This is like someone's mother saying, "Because I told you so." When students know why they're learning something and can connect that to something that's important to them, they're more likely to engage in learning. It is also less stressful. It sticks in long-term memory because it has association instead of short-term memory that is already on overload in these trying times. This why starts with the syllabus, our learning contract with students, but it doesn't end there. Clear and transparent scaffolding is more important than ever so that students know the importance of each step. When students feel isolated, it's much easier to get lost and give up. When they work together, they can see that others are grappling with the same issues and they can push through the struggle. Learning happens in that struggle, but it stops in overwhelm. When students feel like they have support by learning and leaning on one another, it's much easier to manage difficult material and emotions. That peer support comes naturally in a traditional setting. In the times of online learning through a pandemic, professors have to purposefully build in time and assignments that encourage students to engage with one another. So how do we address the issue of students feeling as if they have no power? Jonathan Irwin addresses power in the classroom in this way, and it's quite relevant to teaching during times of trauma. Remember the way choice theory defines power. First, there's power over, which is frequently the first thing that comes to mind when we hear the word power. This is the urge to control others, maybe for personal satisfaction, maybe for their own good. Second, there's power within. This might be called personal empowerment, which includes learning, accomplishing goals, and achieving competence or excellence. Third is power with, which is the power we achieve when we work cooperatively with others. Traveling to the moon and back would be an example of the power that can be harnessed when people work together. Students can meet their need for power if professors and others provide them with opportunities to achieve power with and power within. Obstacles 5 and 6 have to do with a sense of agency and purpose. It's easy to tout mutuality, but in higher education, it's often a philosophical struggle. In reality, professors are the ones that give out grades, so there is indeed a power differential. In this case, mutuality doesn't mean students make decisions about pedagogy or grades, but instead share in knowledge building. The essence of student-centered learning is moving the student from passive recipients of knowledge to active participants in their discovery process. This active position places the student in a position of power over their own learning. Shared power can be obtained through assignments like crowdsourcing documents, presentation of infographics, or surveys, just to name a few. The thing that drives most people to succeed in school is not acquiring a diploma, but what one will do with that diploma after graduation. There's purpose in the hard work that they must endure to gain an education and meet that goal. When one is experiencing trauma, it's difficult to keep an eye on that prize. If students can appreciate that they have grown stronger and learned even in incredibly adverse circumstances, they can recognize their own developmental growth. Trauma-informed teaching is important in the time of a major pandemic, but the tools and techniques within the framework are helpful even when there's no obvious chaotic culprit. The techniques help students learn in a proactive and purposeful way, and they'll enhance their ability to synthesize those lessons into their future careers.